The light on my porch flickered once, then died. I stepped into the cabin and the air hit me, warm, still, and wrong. The fridge door hung open, lightless. A sour stench rolled out, sharp enough to twist my stomach. Milk gone to hell, meat half gray. No power. Right there on the floor, in the middle of the welcome mat I carved by hand, lay a crisp white envelope from the homeowner association. Heavy cardstock, red border. That alone told me it wasn't good news. I bent down. The damn thing was weighted like a wedding invitation. I opened it. Immediate notice of vacate. Due to septic contamination and toxic vapor concerns, you are required to vacate the premises within 48 hours. Failure to comply will result in fines and municipal action. Funny thing is, I hadn't smelled anything but pine, dust, and the faint tang of oil from my generator until the fridge went out, and now this. I looked up and saw him, lurking behind the low fence like a crow on a power line. Larry. His phone pointed at me, probably already filming, that smug look on his face like he was catching me red-handed in something. "You filming me, Larry?" I asked, stepping closer. He shrugged, not stopping. "Just want to make sure you don't blow your gasket again. Folks deserve proof." "Of what?" I snapped. "That the association just killed my damn power?" His face didn't move, just zoomed in. "You want proof, Larry?" I yanked the broken fridge door clean off the hinges and tossed it into the yard. "There, proof." He flinched but didn't stop recording. Truth be told, I was half a second from hopping the fence and knocking that phone straight down his throat. But I didn't. Because I knew exactly what they wanted. They wanted me to crack. I slammed the front door. The echo rang out down the empty dirt road like a shot. Let me set the scene. I'd lived in that cabin for 12 years, built most of it myself, with help from friends who were long gone or too tired to swing hammers anymore. It's small, solid mine, off-grid enough to breathe, close enough to town not to be forgotten. Then the association changed boards. That's when things started to rot. They wanted my land for shared amenities. I said no, they sent surveys. I said no again. Then came the citations, the letters, the visits. I kept standing. Until now. Now they were pulling every string they had. And the worst part, I couldn't even fight back. Not without power. Not without water. That night, I tried calling the county office. Voicemail. Next morning, I drove my truck into town, straight to code enforcement. No appointment, no pleasantries. "I need to speak to someone about a false contamination notice," I said. "My land's clean. My septic system's sealed. It's independent. There's no way it's poisoning anything." The woman behind the desk didn't look up. "If it's already under environmental review, you'll have to wait for the report." "When?" 10 days. 10 days without a fridge, without lights, without a damn clue who was calling the shots. As I stepped out, I caught my reflection in the glass. Unshaven, eyes like burnt coffee. I looked like a man losing his grip. I'll be honest with you, I almost believed them. Almost. I filled a gas can and headed back. Figured I'd at least run the generator, keep the basics running. That's when the real hit came. Pulling into the driveway, I saw a group gathered at the edge of my lot. Larry again, a woman I didn't recognize, a couple with kids. They weren't shouting. They were watching. Like I was some kind of animal, maybe rabid. One of the kids pointed. "Is that the poison man?" His mother hushed him, didn't deny it. I stared at them. No words came. What was I supposed to say? That my land wasn't toxic? That I wasn't the villain in their HOA horror story? You ever get that feeling, like you walked into a room and everyone there already made up their minds about you? That night, I sat in the dark, the generator coughing weakly, thinking about my options. I didn't have many. But something didn't add up. Not just the timing, everything. The photos they'd shown me were from angles I didn't recognize. The pipe they claimed was leaking looked different than mine. And then it hit me. I'd never seen that stretch of fence in any photo. Because it wasn't my fence. I wasn't the problem. They were lying. And if they were lying, they were sloppy. And sloppy people make mistakes. The porch light sputtered once, then went out for good. I stood up, grabbed my flashlight, and walked out into the night. Cold air, pine needles crunching under boots. Time to find out what they were really hiding. The flashlight beam caught the gravel path in slices. I walked slow, careful. It was cold enough to sting the tips of my fingers. Somewhere behind the tree line, a generator coughed and died. Not mine. I headed for the back edge of my property. I knew that fence like I knew my own hands, every warped slat, every rusted nail. But what I found stopped me cold. The ground near the corner post was churned up, fresh tracks, shovel marks. Someone had dug, then covered it sloppy. I knelt down and brushed away the top layer. There it was, a PVC pipe, cut and capped, not mine. I stood up fast, heart thudding. They planted it. That fake leak they showed in photos, it wasn't on my land, it was here, just across the property line, and they buried it like I wouldn't find it. Let me tell you something, if you ever want to frame a man, don't do it with plumbing. Some of us still know how pipes are supposed to run. I took photos, every angle I could, with my old phone, the one I never updated because it still has a real shutter sound, and then I made a mistake. Yeah, see, I went to the association meeting. Funny thing I didn't expect. They welcomed me in. "Knew you'd come to your senses," said Mrs. Claiborne, smiling like a preacher at a funeral. "You ready to talk options?" "I'm ready to talk truth," I said, pulling out the photos. "This isn't on my property. That's your leak, not mine." She didn't blink. "Sir, please don't raise your voice. I'm not raising anything but facts." Then she did something slick. She motioned to the crowd. "Let's keep it civil. We're here for the community's safety, not personal grudges." The crowd murmured. Someone said, "We just want clean water." And then Larry, front row, held up a printed screenshot from his video. Me, ripping the fridge door off, my face twisted, frame frozen mid-yell. "He's unstable," Larry said. "Look at him." Claiborne nodded. "We want to work with you, but only if you can control yourself." That's when I saw it. This wasn't about leaks. It wasn't even about land. It was about making me the problem. They weren't afraid of toxins. They were afraid of someone who said no. I left without another word. Outside, the air felt heavier, like the whole place was breathing against me. Back at the cabin, I found a note on my door, taped, not folded. At 24 hours, or the county steps in. No name, no seal, just a typed threat. I burned it in a coffee can out back. Here's the kicker. When I checked the generator, someone had messed with the fuel line, loosened the clamp just enough to leak. Sabotage. Not some teenage prank. This was surgical. So now I had two things, a fake pipe and a failing generator. And one question, how deep were they willing to go? That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay on the couch with the shotgun across my lap, listening to the woods like they had teeth. You ever been so angry you start talking to shadows? Before dawn, I drove out to the edge of town. There's a guy I know, worked HVAC before he went freelance. Name's Dylan, used to fish with my brother. He looked at my photos and just said, "That's staged. Can you put that in writing?" He shook his head. "Not officially, but I know what I see." I left with a sick feeling in my gut. Everyone knew, no one would say it out loud. So I decided to stay put, no leaving, no running. I refilled the gas line, reinforced the doors, charged every flashlight I had. They wanted a standoff? Fine. But I wasn't going down quiet. What I didn't know yet was just how far they'd already gone. The morning hit like a shovel to the face. I hadn't slept, just sat there, watching the sun creep through the trees like it was scared to be seen. I opened the door and found a plastic bag pinned to the porch with a rock. Inside, a folded flyer. Community garden proposal, temporary reallocation of parcel 17. Parcel 17 was my land. They weren't just trying to kick me out. They were already dividing up the spoils. Long story short, they thought I was gone, thought they'd won. I crumpled the flyer and stood there a while, just breathing in the cold morning air. It smelled like burnt pine and moldy ambition. Then I heard the sound. Shovels, voices, laughter. I walked around back, and there they were. 4 people on my land. Well, technically just past the fence, but they'd moved it. A temporary orange mesh barrier ran across what used to be my woodpile. Larry, of course, was directing things like he was building a damn resort. "You lost?" I asked, voice calm but loud. He looked up. "Just prepping the ground. HOA said this space was approved. HOA doesn't own my property. Technically, it's in review. Technically, you're trespassing. The guy with the shovel hesitated. That's when Claiborne showed up, full sunglasses, clipboard, and a smugness that could peel paint. Let's not escalate, she said. This is for the good of the neighborhood, a peaceful solution. By stealing land? No one's stealing, we're borrowing. While the investigation completes. You've got 20 minutes to clear out, I said. After that, I stop asking. She stepped closer. Are you threatening me, Mr. Dunn? I smiled. No, ma'am, I'm promising you. Here's the thing people forget. You push a man who's lost enough, and he stops caring about being polite. She backed off. They packed up, but the damage was done. They'd made it clear. This wasn't about regulations. It was war. Later that day, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Check the pole by your gate, the voice said. They're counting on you missing it. Click, no ID. I grabbed the flashlight and headed out. There, on the wooden pole beside my mailbox, was a little gray box. Looked like a breaker timer, irrigation type. Wires ran down into the dirt. I popped it open. Inside, a programmable timer wired into my line. Someone had set it to cut power in cycles, not random, scheduled. This wasn't HOA paperwork. This was a hit job. Receipt Kluge 3. I documented it, top to bottom, then I ripped it out and hurled it into the brush. You ever been so mad your hands go steady? No shake, no fear, just cold fire. That night, I put up a trail cam. Just one, facing the gate, not to catch them, to catch myself, if it ever came to that. Because I was getting close to the edge. The only thing keeping me from going over, one quiet truth I hadn't admitted out loud. They were scared of me. Not because I was dangerous, but because I wasn't going away. And that scared them more than anything. The trail cam blinked red as I passed it, half buried behind a stump near the gate. I didn't expect it to scare them off. I expected it to record something useful, something I could use. But all I got was silence. 3 nights in a row, no one came. No lights, no movement. Not even Larry's shadow across my fence line. It felt wrong. Too quiet. Then on the 4th day, I went to town. Just to breathe something that didn't reek of rot and paranoia. I hit the hardware store, grabbed some batteries and cable ties. Didn't say much. Folks looked at me like I had a warning label stamped on my chest. When I came back, there was a kid sitting on my porch. Barely out of high school, shaggy hair, baggy hoodie, sneakers too clean for this county. Hey, he said, standing up fast. You Mr. Dunn? That depends who's asking. I was told to bring you this. He handed me a manila envelope. No return address, no writing, just sealed. And who told you? He shrugged. Guy at the bus stop. Said you'd know what to do. He left before I could press further. Inside the envelope, a printout of an internal memo, county level, marked confidential. Subject line, temporary use zoning variance, parcel 17, expedited. My land, fast-tracked, skipped oversight. And guess who signed the request? Claiborne, as a community liaison. Only problem, that title doesn't exist. She made it up. You know that feeling when 100 little moments click into place all at once? That was me, standing in the doorway with pine needles still in my boots. Let me tell you something. When someone fabricates authority, it's not a mistake. It's a strategy, and it usually means they've done it before. I looked again at the kid's envelope. There was one more paper, a sticky note, one word, all caps. Check clockwise. I didn't know what it meant, not yet. That night, I didn't sleep. I walked the edge of my property clockwise, step by step. North fence, west fence, south line, creek side. That's when I found it. 2 survey markers, moved, only by a few feet, but enough. Enough to shift the property line just far enough to make part of my septic field officially encroach on communal buffer zone. Which meant their leak wasn't just fake. It was mapped to look like mine. Mapped. Seed, Kluge 1 payoff. And the fake pipe, the fence I didn't recognize in the photos, it wasn't mine because it never was. They drew new lines, quietly, internally. I stood there under the pine canopy, breath steaming in the dark, and I laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was finally clear. They were rewriting the map. But what happens when you redraw a line over a man who's still standing on it? You tell me. The next morning, I put on my oldest boots and poured a black cup of coffee that tasted like burned bark. I didn't bother with breakfast. I had a mission. I drove to the county clerk's office. The woman behind the glass wore a blouse with pumpkins on it and didn't meet my eyes. I need parcel maps, all revisions for parcel 17 and adjacent properties over the past 6 months. She sighed. Are you involved in that homeowner association dispute? No, ma'am, I'm the target. She didn't smile, but she slid the form toward me. It took 3 hours, 3 coffee refills, 1 overheard argument in the next cubicle, but I got it. Map overlays, time-stamped revisions, digital and physical signatures. And right there, in plain print, was the bait. Claiborne's request for a zoning buffer shift, based on community septic proximity. No evidence, no tests, just neighborhood concern. But the kicker? The buffer had been shifted after a site visit, logged by a man named Earl Spaulding. Only Earl Spaulding had died 2 years ago. I stared at the signature. Somebody signed in his name. That's not a mistake. That's forgery. I took photos of everything, folded them into my jacket like currency. And I didn't go home. I went to the bar. It's a small place, 1 pool table, 2 taps, and a bartender who once testified in a goat theft case. My kind of crowd. I sat near the window and waited. Didn't take long. Larry walked in. He froze when he saw me, half turned like he might leave, then squared up and came over. You following me now? He said, half joking. I didn't need to. This place is your personality distilled. He sat, didn't ask, just stared. I laid 1 photo on the table, the zoning overlay, then another, the signature. This is a dead man's name. Know what that means? I'm not part of that, he said too fast. Then tell me who is. He didn't, but his silence said enough. You people think you can rewire the world because you printed a few maps, I asked. Look, it's not personal. No, it's very personal. And then, just as he stood to leave, I said the one thing I knew would stick. You ever wonder what else Claiborne forged? He paused. That was the crack. I didn't need him to confess. I needed him to panic. Let me be clear, I wasn't looking for revenge. I was looking for weight, pressure, a shift in wind, and that night it came. Botseed, Kluchetu payoff. My generator didn't fail, because I'd replaced the line with a transparent one. And there, faint in the tube, was residue. Thin, chemical, not gasoline. Someone had dosed my fuel. Sabotage wasn't the endgame. They wanted me to explode. Literally or legally, didn't matter. But I'd flipped it, and now I had proof. I stayed up late, marking every photo with time, date, weather. I wrote names I hadn't spoken aloud in years, people I trusted, people I didn't, because the next move had to be mine. And it had to be perfect. You ever feel the moment just before you act? That stillness? Like a string pulled taut before the snap? That's where I was. Right there, waiting for the snap. The snap came at 6:42 a.m. 3 trucks, 1 with a digger on the trailer, 2 with men in high-vis vests and clipboards. I watched them from the kitchen window, coffee in hand, no cream, no sugar, just dark, like the mood. They didn't knock, they didn't call, they just started unloading. Let me set the scene. Gravel crunching, diesel rattling, cold steam off the hoods. Claiborne's SUV parked last, a full 40 feet behind the others, like she didn't want to get her boots dirty. I stepped onto the porch. One of the vest men, glasses clipboard, face like cold toast, walked up. We're here to perform soil remediation, he said. Temporary digging, 2 to 3 feet, just protocol. Under whose authority? He turned the page on his clipboard. Homeowner Association Safety Compliance Division. That division doesn't exist. He blinked. Then Claiborne stepped forward. Sunglasses again, clipboard again, same playbook. This is for your benefit too, Mr. Dunn. If your soil's clean, this ends it. Ends what? The land theft, the sabotage, the poison in my gas tank? She paused, just for a second. That half second when people wonder how much you really know. I took out my phone. Smile, I said. You're officially on notice. Are you threatening me again? No, I'm documenting. You're obstructing community work. You're trespassing. Funny thing I didn't expect. The workers looked at each other. One of them stepped back. That's when I handed Claiborne a packet, a manila folder. Inside, copies of the fake zoning overlays, the forged signature, and a short note. Distributed to County Inspector's Office 9:12 a.m. yesterday. She flipped through them. Her hand trembled. Not a lot. Just enough. And then came the twist I didn't see coming. Hey, Larry. He wasn't in a truck. He walked up on foot. And he had a folder of his own. Ms. Claiborne, he said, voice flat. I'm invoking Conflict of Interest Clause 4B, effective immediately. She turned to him like he slapped her. You're siding with him? I'm protecting myself. Turns out Larry's house sat on the very same false buffer zone they redrew. If I went down, he could be next. Payoff Klutch 3. The transparent fuel line, the residue, I'd emailed those photos too, to the same address. And someone inside the system had passed it along. I don't know who. But I knew it worked. The diggers didn't unload. The men stepped back. Claiborne said nothing, just got in her SUV and left. You ever feel a room exhale, even if it's outside? I stood there as the trucks rolled out one by one and let the silence fill back in. It wasn't over, but they'd flinched. And that, my friend, is how momentum shifts. The next 2 days were quiet, not peaceful, just quiet. The kind of silence that comes before something heavy drops. I spent most of it going over everything, photos, notes, copies of signatures, even the trail cam footage frame by frame, looking for something I missed or something I could use. Then I remembered the sticky note, check clockwise. I'd done that once, but I hadn't checked the roofline. I climbed up just before sunset, shingles cracked under my boots, wind tugged at my sleeves. Near the vent pipe, tucked just out of sight, I found it, a small gray puck the size of a hockey disc, battery-powered, blinking red. A sensor, motion or gas, I couldn't tell. No branding, no serial. I pulled it off and dropped it into a bucket of water. It hissed, sparked, and died. That was the last straw. I didn't need to wait anymore. At 8 a.m. sharp, I walked into the next HOA open session. Clean jeans, fresh boots, every document in a folder under my arm. People stared. Claiborne wasn't there. But the vice chair, a man named Elkins, was. We don't take open floor today, he said when I stepped forward. You do now? I dropped the folder on the table. Forged documents, fake zoning, tampered utilities, surveillance devices on private property. I held up a USB stick. Copies are already in county hands, but this one's for you. Watch it. Don't watch it. Doesn't matter. Elkins stared at the folder like it had teeth. Let me tell you something. A man who didn't do wrong might get defensive, but a man who's complicit, he shuts up, goes still. That room was stone silent. Then a woman stood up. Elaine, mother of 2, lived 2 doors down. She'd once screamed at me in the street. She cleared her throat. Is it true about the boundary lines? Elkins didn't answer. Because, she said, voice cracking, I think we planted part of our garden over his drain field. I didn't speak. I didn't need to. People started whispering, looking at each other. That's how fear moves, sideways, like a spark on dry leaves. Then Elkins reached for the gavel, but I beat him to it, figuratively. I'm not here to sue you, I said. I'm not even here to fix you. I just want you to know one thing. I paused. You let this happen, and you watched it happen, so now you'll live with the fact that you didn't stop it. I turned and walked out. That silence behind me, it wasn't shock, it was shame. You ever leave a room and know it'll never be the same again? Yeah. Like that? I didn't sleep that night, again. Not from fear, from release. Something about telling a room full of people the truth, loud, clear, without asking permission, it shakes something loose inside you. The next morning, I woke up to a note. Folded, taped to the inside of my screen door. No envelope, just one line. They're done. You were right. No signature. But I didn't need one. I walked the perimeter. No workers, no trucks, no survey flags. The orange mesh fence was gone. Even the metal stakes had been pulled from the soil. Let me be clear, they didn't apologize. They just disappeared. A week later, the county sent a letter, official, sealed, notarized. Per oversight review, the zoning variance regarding Parcel 17 has been voided. All temporary authority claims retracted. No further action required. No admission of guilt. But that wasn't what I was after. That's not how you beat people like that. You don't wait for them to admit it. You make it cost them too much to keep lying. Funny thing is, the neighborhood changed after that. Not all at once, not like in a movie. But people stopped looking through me. Larry nodded at me once in the grocery store. Didn't smile, didn't speak. But he nodded. Elkin stepped down from the board a month later. Personal reasons. No one asked questions. And Claiborne? Haven't seen her since. Rumor was she moved across state lines. Bought a condo somewhere with HOA included. God help them. As for me, I planted sunflowers. Right over the spot where they wanted to dig. Big ones. The kind that turn their faces to the sun even after storms. People walk by now. Some slow down. A few wave. One old woman left a jar of honey on my steps. No note, just the honey. You know, when this started, I thought the fight was about land, about fences and drains and fake reports. But it wasn't. It was about this. Will you leave when they tell you to? Or will you stay when it matters most? So if you're still listening, and I think you are, here's what I want you to remember. You don't win by yelling louder. You win by standing where they don't want you to stand, and not moving. That's how you break them. That's how you win. And if this hits close to home, hit that like button.